The ghosts of this farm speak to me on grief, belonging, and a black mare showing me the way home. The quiet that follows survival. I was so busy surviving that the noise inside of me drowned out the quiet that lives beneath the rush. The ghosts in the land have been speaking all along, but I can only hear them when I'm not buzzing with the urgency of doing and producing and moving. The quiet within us, like the ghosts in the land, waits patiently for us to find them again and listen. Two people dreamed about Sheba, the brave black mare that died on the trailer on the way to our new farm. 2 weeks have passed since then, but also another lifetime for me as I shed survival and sink into living. In both dreams, Sheba is happy. In one, she is swimming. She radiates peace and quiet. She is home, and so am I. When a place comes to you out of desperation, when it comes to you because there's no other choice, you resolve to be technical and accepting. You resolve to be thankful for anything that isn't eviction and regret. I wasn't prepared to be held softly by this new farm that feels like an attentive and listening mother. You know the difference between feeling like you're somewhere you're wanted and how unsettling it feels to be somewhere you're not? I'm feeling that difference acutely right now. On the drive to the attorney to close on the farm, my body rushed with familiar signals: heat, chills, nausea, tremors. I later said to a therapist friend, I figured out that breathing really does stop a full-blown panic attack. You people are right. We laughed and she agreed. It really is that simple. Sour candy works too, but the hard part is remembering to do the simplest thing. Later, Christopher and I pulled a mattress from the garage at the new farm and placed it in an empty room. We walked the perimeter fencing, noticing gaps and sections to patch before the horses arrived on Sunday. I was scared of all the barbed wire. I imagined the horses tearing themselves up or escaping to a nearby road. I flinched as cars passed, even as the land told me to breathe. We found plaques at the bottom of trees, old markers commemorating what they were and when they were planted. A sprawling, symmetrical magnolia near the house sheltered us like an umbrella as we marveled at a swing and loosened the rope from its branches. Along the fence lines, vines bearing thorns the length of my hand's width revealed small oranges that smelled like sanctification, like sweetness, like hope. The bordering trees made coves of grass, meadows that waited green and cool to hold our secrets, my secrets, your secrets, theirs. As Tamar Reno always says, healing doesn't happen while trauma is still unfolding. I felt eviction, the act of it, deep in my bones. I read it like memory, like a record groove of rejection. I thought about the people who come to work with me and how dismayed they are when the horse walks away from them. Maybe the horse was bored. Maybe the horse wanted to eat grass. Maybe the horse wanted us to follow them so we could get a better view together. Inevitably, the person with me reads the horse walking away from them as rejection, revulsion, dismissal. Why don't they want me? At night, Christopher and I slept in the empty old farmhouse on the procured mattress. 1 night, 2 nights, 3. The sleep was so deep we found ourselves not wanting to leave the new farm, to go back to the old farm and pack up our things. We were wholly contented with nothing but this place. On Sunday, we moved the horses. I woke up early at the new farm and I watched the light fill the windows. The long grass in the fields was dewy and heavy against my feet. Dampness soaked into my toes. In the aching rush of lifting and moving and driving to the finish, the herd safe in a new home that would always be theirs, I'd become incapable of complex thought. I was reduced to lists and tasks and completion. I rolled a hay ring meant for cattle out of the field the mares would go in when they arrived. Where should I put it? The fence lines worried me. The horses weren't used to traffic being so near. Barbed wire ringed the edges. Everything felt unsafe, and there wasn't time to make it safer. I had no choice but to keep moving. But the feel of the metal hay ring, so huge and heavy and bulging, the way it moved lightly under my hands with it flipped on its side, was tangible and something I could do to pass the time before the trailer pulled into the driveway. I marveled at how the right shape lightened the load. I pushed the ring out ahead of me. I was almost to the tree line. Where would it fit? Where could I place this piece of metal where it was out of the way and safely away from the horse's fragile leg bones? Someone stopped me, and the look on their face was filled with terror. The hay ring completed a rotation and came to rest. Something was wrong. My phone rang. Sheba, the glorious black mare, was the last horse on the trailer. She had been loaded and then she was taken off, and Penny was loaded in her place. After that, Sheba was shoved back on the trailer at the rear. The hauler had been my friend for many years. I'd bought Sheba from him. I'd ridden with him on different hauls into the coves of mountains, places that big commercial trailers couldn't reach. On one of those trips, we halted on the road, the trailer heavy behind us, to watch two bears cross the pavement in the moonlight. Instead of the perfectly suitable rig sitting in his driveway, he chose to haul my horses in an untested, ancient cattle trailer he had picked up from someone a few days before the move. I want to know where the trailer came from, and I want to know what happened to it after Sheba died. The hauler grew up with Ray Hunt and Tom Dorrance. He knows Buck Brannaman personally. He was raised by Kurt Fowler, who passed recently. Kurt would have been my first choice of haulers. Kurt once hauled his trailer halfway across America at a moment's notice when one of my barn kids had a wreck with her horse in tow. Kurt showed up riddled with cancer to haul a horse too dangerous for the barn staff to handle the day before I had surgery. Kurt once called me at midnight on a whim because he felt my stress about hauling a horse to a vet clinic. He showed up at dawn and hauled the horse himself. One day, Kurt and I stood in his barn, and he took me by the shoulders, and he shook me and asked me when I would learn to trust myself. This hauler that Kurt raised knew better than to shove 7 horses on a trailer that was meant to, as one beloved member of our barn family said, haul sheep. Sheba fell through the floor of the trailer. One of our own people, following behind the load for no reason other than that she could, witnessed it happen and rushed through traffic to stop the hauler's truck. Sheba was alive for more than an hour before help could reach her. For all the hauler's love of guns, he didn't have one at the ready to do the right thing. I have not, since the hauler left Sheba's body on the side of the road with one of our barn family, my mother's age and a person who loved Sheba dearly, heard from him since. Skilled people retrieved Sheba and buried her in a 500-acre field near a tree line hedging the woods. The vet cut the hairs of Sheba's tail and handed them reverently to me along with her halter. I placed the halter on a hook at the new barn at the entrance to the little office building by the arena. And then the rest of the herd came in a caravan of small trailers, word having spread through the horse community, and everyone stopping in their tracks to come lend aid. Sheba's halter still hangs where I placed it. My stories are about land, loss, and herds and humans finding their way back to trust. Stable Roots grows from the ground up, part memoir, part field notes, all written from the place where grief turns into growth. You can subscribe for free to follow along or choose a paid subscription to help sustain the horses, the land, and the work that makes these stories possible. While trauma is still unfolding. There was the herd to settle and the trailers to unpack. There were decisions and urgency and exhaustion. We took the last load of equipment out of the old barn this week, and that was an ache on top of an ache on top of... Think of it this way. You've been on a ship that sailed through a hurricane and then crashed on the rocks. You survive the storm, but you wake up on the shore of the most beautiful island. It's going to take a long while before you see the surroundings, watch the light change across the horizon, before you hear the birds singing. I'm on that island. I watched the sunset like fire over the herd the other night. It was the purifying kind of fire and not the burny kind. I spent long hours watching the horses learn how to horse in these new fields without the interference of stalls and schedules. I've made our bed into a nest. I'm feathering that nest, but I cannot complete a task without something else, a person, an animal, the time of day, needing my attention. I'm learning how to create boundaries and ask for what I need. I'm learning to be okay with rejection. This new land started speaking to me yesterday. It told me that I could let go and trust that no one will take it away from me. It told me that it had been waiting for me for a long time, that it would provide and take care of me like a mother. We work together here, not against, the land said. And for that reason, this farm is an island for people who feel too much, people who are ready to acknowledge their feelings and name them, to rest, to recover, and to be comforted. It's a place for empaths to feel as much as they want. It's protected by a sharp, thorny boundary filled with sweet-smelling fruit that promises feelings will be met with safety and trust as long as we're willing to offer the same gift in return. And for that reason, the farm's reason, people will come and people will go, but the right people will stay. Sometimes I think Sheba was the first to understand that this land was ours. She never made it through the gate, but she reached it all the same. Her spirit is stitched into the edges of this place, in the vines, the magnolia roots, and the curve of the pasture where the herd grazes at dusk. When the wind moves through the fence line, I hear her breathing, and it reminds me that safety isn't the absence of pain, but the presence of belonging. Sheba stayed so that the rest of us could arrive. And now when I walk the boundary of this new home and I feel the ghost hum low in the ground, I finally understand what they're saying. Nothing we love is ever truly gone. The right ones, human, horse, or otherwise, find a way to stay with us and move us forward into better work and better ways of being. My promise to you, Sheba, is that your senseless and wholly avoidable loss will not be in vain. I will start that work today, but it might not look like work because it is so quiet. Love, Kim. Sheba's story isn't just about one horse or one terrible moment. It's about how we choose to answer loss and what kind of world we can make for those who come after. The funds raised through our GoFundMe will help us finish building this new home, but they'll also allow us to seek justice for Sheba and make sure no other horse is ever put in harm's way like she was. From the start, this journey was about building a better life for horses, and Sheba's loss fuels us to be safer, stronger, and more accountable for the lives in our care. If you'd like to help us in that work, you can contribute at Save Bramblewood, and I'll link to that in the show notes. Thank you for being with me today. I am recording for the first time in what we call the Blue Room, and it's the upstairs office area. It's this big room that has windows on 3 sides, and it's in the old section of the house. In this farmhouse, the original section, it states it was from 1825, but they have found evidence that states 1808. And the other day in a video, I said 1700s, but this isn't Plymouth. This is in upstate South Carolina, and it's this house is from the early 1800s. And also, I'm beside a window, which is beautiful. It overlooks a pond, the neighbor's pond across the street. In front of me, I can see the horses in the ring. But this room is mostly empty because I still have everything in pods, and I kind of like it that way. I'm like, I don't need that stuff anyway. Like, we'll just leave it in the pods forever. But it's echoey, so I'm going to be playing around with different places that I can record. I'm so thankful that you're here with me. Thank you for letting me have a little hiatus as we figure out how to set up a brand new farm and an old farm with all our old stuff and all the beautiful horses. And Sheba's loss gutted me. It's just now that I'm able to find words. So thank you guys for being with me. I love you, and I'll see you next week.